Chapter 4, Choosing the Best WordPress Hosting Provider. Welcome to the next chapter of our ultimate guide to blogging and beginners choosing the best web hosting provider. So far, we have discussed choosing your blogging niche, naming your blog, and choosing a blogging platform, as we recommended self-hosted WordPress as the best self-hosted platform to host your blog. It makes sense to discuss the various web hosts out there that can help you win that. This chapter will look at web hosting, what it is, what it does, and what to look for in a web host. We will also look at some of the market leading hosts to give you an idea of what's out there. By the end of this article, you should have all information you need to make an informed decision about your next web host. Table of contents. Definition of commonly used terms. What is a web host and why do you need one? Shared hosting versus dedicated hosting. What's the difference? 10 best WordPress hosting services. How to select the best hosting for WordPress. Which company offers the best WordPress hosting? Final thoughts. Definition of commonly used terms. Before we get into the details of WordPress hosting, we should provide some explanation. This chapter uses more technical terms than previous chapters, so we have put together a quick glossary of some of the terms you may not be familiar with. Server. A server is a computer designed for one specific task, serving files. In the context of this guide, a web server is designed to store your website files and serve them to browsers that request them. The design and configuration of that server is dedicated to fulfilling the task. Domain name. A domain name is the www name that you type into a browser to visit a website. The domain name is mapped to a particular server that hosts your website files using DNS. DNS stands for Domain Name System. DNS stands for Domain Name System. It maps domain name to IP addresses. Server work using IP addresses and the web works with domains. DNS is the middleman that connects the two. It works a bit like a phone book. You type a URL into your browser, it queries DNS to locate the IP address. DNS provides the IP address of your web server and your browser goes to that server and requests the web page. Subdomain. A subdomain is an additional domain hosted within a primary domain, is a method of utilizing the same domain for different uses. For example, www etc. is our primary domain. A possible subdomain of that could be www.wordpressing, where WordPress hosting is the subdomain. SSL, Secure Sockets Layer, is the technology that encrypts traffic between your browser and the web server for privacy. It's the extra in HTTPS. That means all traffic is encrypted for that session between your web browser and the website. It requires the installation of an SSL certificate on your web host the implement and is now regarded as mandatory. Disk storage. Web servers use the same kind of storage as you have on computer, just on a larger scale. They use a mixture of HDD mechanical hard drives and SSD solid state drives to store the various files that make up a website. SSD is faster, so the desired option. Some web hosting plans place limits on disk storage, which you need to watch out for. WordPress hosting. A web host that either specializes in the specific demands of WordPress or who has servers configured to deliver WordPress website faster. As a database-driven CMS content management system, WordPress requires faster servers with a super fast database to work effectively. WordPress hosting delivers that. Bandwidth. What is bandwidth? Bandwidth refers to the amount of data transferred to visitors from your part of the web server. This includes visitors to your site, emails you have sent or received, and files uploaded or downloaded. by you or your visitors. Some host limits bandwidth while others don't. Unlimited bandwidth is often referred to as unmentored. CDN, a content delivery network. CDN is a collection of web servers placed around the world in data centers, each with a copy of website. When a browser visits your website, a CDN will automatically choose the copy of your site closest to the visitor to help speed up the experience. It is also useful if a server experiences downtime, as your site will still be available in another CDN data center. Sorry. Page load time is the time it takes from when a browser requests your website homepage until that page is fully loaded. The faster it loads, the shorter the page load time, and the happier visitor will be. Google also uses page load time to assess your site's SEO, so this is an important metric. Server uptime. This is a measure of how long a web server is up and running. Downtime is when the server is not running either for planned work or a fault. Uptime is the measure of when it works. We would expect a minimum of 99.9 uptime from a web hosting. That's all for today. Web caching or cache is a stored copy of a file maintained in a memory in case it is needed. All computers use caching to help speed up the experience and minimize the work of computer has to do. You will come across most of these terms during your quest for a web host, and we hope the glossary will come in use. Is a stored copy of file maintained in memory in case it is needed. All computers use caching to help speed up the experience and minimize the work a computer has to do. You will come across most of these terms during your quest for a web host, and we hope glossary will come. What is web hosting and why do you need one? A web host provides the server space we need to install. That server space has a direct connection to the internet, so anyone in the world can visit if they have the URL or a link. We rent server space for a web host for a set fee per month or a year. That server space will include a database or multiple databases and all the system and software required for WordPress to operate. The server may also include security and backup tools to keep your website safe, as well as other functions. On a web hosting server, you may be sharing that server with hundreds or thousands of other websites and will be allocated a set amount of disk space and server resources to run your website. The upside of shared hosting is that it is cheap and readily available. The downside is that you have to share the server with so many other websites. Most new blogs and smaller websites will be fine with shared hosting to begin with, but may quickly outgrow it. Dedicated hosting. Dedicated hosting is also referred to as managed hosting or dedicated server. It is where you rent an entire web server for your own use. You don't have to share it with other websites, and all resources are for your websites only. The upside of dedicated hosting is that all resources are yours to use and you have a lot more freedom over how the server works. The downside is that it is significantly more expensive to rent. Dedicated hosting is ideal for busier websites or those expecting a lot of traffic. WordPress hosting can be either shared or dedicated. The service outline should tell the which you are buying. Best WordPress hosting services. Now you have an idea what web hosting is, why you need it. Let's take a look at some of the web hosting WordPress around right now. SiteGround. SiteGround is one of the most prominent players in the world of web hosting, with over 500,000 domains and 6 data centers of 3 continents. This is a company with a truly international flavor. It balances price with customer needs, and the result is a fantastic product. That's why it's one of the few hosting providers recommended by both. The company server continuously rank among the fastest and most reliable, and the technical support team is one of the best in the industry. WordPress hosting plan include unmetered traffic, free SSL, daily automatic backups, free migration, free CDN, managed WordPress options, 30-day money-back guarantee, and a ton of other useful features. Key features of SiteGround: 99.9 uptime, minimum of 10 GB of web space, free CDN and SSL, 24/7 support, distributed data centers in USA, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Pros of SiteGrounds: free website migration, fast servers with excellent uptime, excellent support, distributed data centers, Should mean faster load times, money back guarantee, cons of site limited disk size.